All right. Hello, everyone. Can you guys see me now? There was a huh. Hmm. So I think I should be live. All right. Okay. So please, when you see me going live, please confirm that you guys can hear me in the chat by I don't know, just making a short comment. What? I see an error in the live stream. Oh, okay. Okay, so you guys see me now, right? Oh, perfect, perfect. I'm so glad that this thing worked. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this first ever online Sofia Crypto Meetup. I hope you are all healthy and well and are actually enjoying your social isolation. It could bring some badly needed diversity in your busy everyday lives, actually, I think, and possibly even allow you to do some of the things that you can usually, yeah, couldn't find the time for. So I hope next month we'll be able to come together in puzzle again. But as the way things are developing, I don't think this will actually happen. And yeah, we'll have to make Sophie Crypto Meetup into an online event for the maybe at least until the beginning of the summer. So I will first say a few words about the crazy month of March. So let me just tell you what's going to happen now. Yeah, just a few words about the really crazy month of March. Then Anastasia will take the floor to share her thoughts on the biggest news that happened in March, apart from the obvious market crash, which will be the main topic of today, and Bobby will be talking about that. And since we couldn't really organize a poll this month in the group, we will. She's just we will have to trust her on the biggest news from the month, apart from the market crash. Then she'll say a few words about what's happening in Nexo, any updates that are coming from Nexo. And after that, Albena from Eternity will also share some updates related to Eternity. And then, of course, we'll be jumping into the main topic of tonight. And our guide, as I mentioned, will be Bogovest or Bobby Belev from Blockchain BG, who is definitely one of the most competent investors and analysts on the topic of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology in Bulgaria. So now focusing on the March topics was March eventful month, really eventful. So the coronavirus epidemic, of course, pushed the world into a global state of fear and uncertainty. The digital space was swept with just various kinds of information and misinformation. People started this crazy liquidation of any assets and any type of assets that they had. Doesn't matter if those assets were considered to be valuable 24 hours ago, they had to be liquidated, and that of course included gold and cryptocurrency, uh, which led to the markets being in free fall, realizing actually one of some of the largest drops since 2008. Politicians on their part overreacted as well, putting in place some really draconian measures, which could prove to be economically devastating. And central banks decided to do what they could possibly do, which was decreasing interest rates to historic lows, going into negative, even further down negative territory. For example, in the case of the European Central Bank, and also engaged in unprecedented and really unprecedented. I mean, it's crazy quantitative easing programs, and that's just to name a few. So in just one sentence, the world just simply went mad. At the same time, the value proposition of cryptocurrencies, I think, became even more clear. And despite the fact that the crypto market capitalization went down significantly, and this is something that we have experienced before, I think that the crypto community found refuge in the complete predictability of public blockchain protocols, especially in terms of transparent and rigid monetary policy. So I'm more than confident that in the next few months and years, as the new global economic and monetary realities manifest themselves, the utility of crypto money will simply become even more evident and definitely moon. So with this short intro to the historic month of March 2020, I will give the word to Anastasia, who is our new Sofia Crypto Meetup co-organizer. And I hope everything works from a technological point of view, because like this is the first time that we are doing this. So Anastasia, the floor is yours.
Thanks for the intro, Vlad. Hey everyone, I'm like Anastasia Angelova. I'm currently head of channel partnerships for Nexo. And since we really decided to do this like in the very last moment, and it's our first Sofia Crypto Meetup event, doing it online, we didn't have the time to do a poll on the recent events, and it has been a very eventful month, as Vlad just said. So I just picked the latest ones. Actually, so I'll share my screen now. So yeah. The first one, I just called it MakerDAO because, like, actually up until today there were so many events that starting from one leading to another, that it is an event of its own. Does everyone see my screen, by the way? Awesome. So yeah, since it's like, I think, the biggest event for every DeFi fan here, and we are, I'll dig more into it. So there was a maker debt auction triggered after the under-collateralized debt reached over 4 million, which actually means I'll dig more into it. All went successful, but on the 12th of March, if you remember, of course you do, it's like the topic of our meetup now. There was a crash in the market, and what happened that during the ETH price crash, at the same day, some votes that were containing ETH as collateral to mint DAI became under-collateralized. So the oracles, like, there are many, let's say, speculation what actually happened. Some say like oracles couldn't feed correct data about the price. Liquidations were triggered by users calling the contract, which starts an auction for the ETH from the vault. So how it works, the auction is used to raise DAI to reimburse the liquidated vault's debt. In normal operations, users that are named keepers compete for this auction, and the winning bid is paid in DAI in exchange for the ETH in the vault. The DAI is then burned, the debt erased. However, what happened on the 12th of March is that during the bid, like the huge drop of in ETH price following Bitcoin, a lot of vaults became available for liquidation at the same time as the Ethereum network became clogged with lots of transactions, leading to a sharp rise in gas price. So that, like, this confluence of circumstances just led to keepers either stopping their activity for fear of slippage or for lack of liquidity to absorb all those liquidations. In the end, there were like only one keeper continuing triggering liquidations and bidding zero for the ETH with no competition. That lasted really for a short time, but in the end, the MakerDAO, as it had plus something around 500,000 surplus before the drop, had after that minus 4 million that needed to be filled. The thing is, the protocol, and I actually went into the white paper to see whether it really covers it. It covers the issue. Like there are a few really last measures there, and one of them is called debt auction. So what it meant that when it's triggered a maker mint and like this type of debt auction, the DAI raised are used to fill the surplus debt. So during normal operations, maker is burned when debt from the votes is reimbursed. This would be just literally the opposite measure. So the good thing is that the DeFi community acted super fast. And one of the things that happened as a result of the executive vote on the 17th is adding USDT, like approving USDC, sorry, as the third collateral type by maker governance. So things like this don't happen again. And as of today, the maker token contract, this news just came in, literally, I saw it on my phone, is now like 100% in control of maker holders, like in control from the Maker Foundation and back like to the maker governance community. So generally everything ended well. The community acted super quickly and decisively, and this is generally in the end the good news for the DeFi community. So the next one, those will be really short, I promise. The digital dollar got striped from latest US coronavirus relief bill in the States. So what happened? The US lawmakers introduced the bill last week, envisioning a digital payment system organized by the Federal Reserve and its member banks to directly send these funds to US residents to assist them with expenses during the coronavirus mitigation measures. Like the thing is, the news went like viral, and later, just like I think a couple of days later, all mentions of digital dollar in the bill were erased. So like everyone is buzzing with this news now, and maybe in like in answer to that also, China's central bank said reportedly that they have completed top-level design of digital currency in collaboration with private companies. One of those is Alipay. Alipay is the financial arm of the Chinese tech Alibaba tech company. So they reportedly publicized 5 patents related to China's official digital currency from January until March or something. But the funny thing is, like in the meantime, in WeChat, the Bank of China just like a few days ago posted really huge post titled "Protection of Financial Consumption Rights and Interests," and in which they say that they believe that Bitcoin is not a safe haven because it's too volatile. So those are the news in general. Like the second and the third are all in line with like there is a bonus one. Banks, obviously, seems that governments are increasingly looking into cryptocurrency as an aid in the COVID-19 situation. So also the Italian bank, an Italian bank, opened Bitcoin trading to 1.2 million people during lockdown. And yeah, so obviously governments all around the world are reaching out to cryptocurrencies. So the situation now with the market is a bit more stabilized. We had like a bit of a jump, a resistance at 7. More will say Bobby Belef a bit later. ETH more or less following. And a note from one of our sponsors, Nexo. Since I'm also representing Nexo. So Nexo, the leading financial institution for digital assets, well known for offering the world's first instant crypto credit lines, is making tokenized physical gold, Pax Gold, a regulated token from Paxos Trust Company, accessible as a collateral options for all its clients. Same goes for the British pound. That's really freshly baked news as of today. And now I give the word to Bobby Pelef.
Just one thing before we go to Bobby, we're gonna jump really quickly to Albana, who also has some news coming from Eternity, our other sponsor. And thank you, Anastasia.
Thank you too, and sorry for that. Yeah, of course, Albana.
Hello everyone, this is Albana, social media manager at Eternity. I'm here to give you some short updates. You know already that the atomic swaps between BTC and Eternity and ETH and Eternity are live on JellySwap, and the team is already working on a stable coin on Eternity. But they're actually progressing really fast, and they're sharing updates on our forum. So if you're curious, just jump to forum.eternity.com. What other updates? We have actually a few job offers, job openings. We are looking for a UI UX designer, a project manager, and developer advocate. That's actually a really interesting profile. We are looking for a technically savvy person who is also good at communication. So yeah, if anybody of you is interested, just ping me. I'll give you more details. Actually, we have been cooking something really interesting, but I won't say any more right now. Just stay tuned and I'll share some details soon. But while you are waiting, we, the whole Trinity community and ecosystem, actually, we are organizing a small online gathering on Friday. If you are just bored from staying home, just join us. It's going to be around 6 p.m. Bulgarian time. We are going to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, and how blockchain can be used to fight it. We're going to have a few panelists, just informal gathering to discuss the crisis. So join us. I think that's it for now. We actually have a new mining pool that added Eternity lately. If there are miners among you, just check Woolly Poolly. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Albana. All right, guys. So it's time to go into the main topic of today, which is what really happened. Like, how can we? What can we? How much sense we can make from the meltdown that happened on March 12th, and after that, of course, and where are we going in the crypto world? What should we expect in the medium and long terms? And for this, we have Bobby. So I give the word to Bobby now. Bobby, it's
Hi
time to
everyone.
shine.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I was just thinking how great it is that you're hiring people right now in the middle of the biggest unemployment wave that we've experienced ever. So
yeah, and we work remotely, so everybody's welcome.
yeah, that's really good. Hopefully eternity will have good times in the future. Um, where do we start? Been an interesting month, I guess, for everybody. Um, Related to cryptocurrency, we saw it seems like the market is a bit schizophrenic, going up and down in extremely volatile. But I I think everybody expected that. It's nothing new, meaning that it's a risky asset class. And there's been this debate going on in the community for a while whether Bitcoin and crypto is a safe haven or a risky asset. And a lot of people are claiming that it could be a safe haven in the future, but in reality, this crash already proved that it's not. And it's pretty correlated with the S&P in a way. Um, if if the Corona crisis never happened, I was expecting a very successful 2020 for the whole asset class. We had the perfect structure of everything: the monetary policy, the sentiment of the investors. However, this black swan happened, and now it seems like mm, the bull market is postponed indefinitely in the future. We don't know when that's going to happen. It is going to happen at some point, but it's just not clear when. Mm, right now, there was a lot of deleveraging in the crypto market, led by BitMEX. A lot of it was led by the DeFi infrastructure that had to sell a lot of Ether, especially. So we had these wild swings all the way down to 3,800 for a Bitcoin. And well, I think it became clear that a problem is coming about a month ago. I think this is about the time when we um, first understood that the Corona crisis will actually get out of control outside of China as well, when it spread already to South Korea and a little bit of Italy. And the precautions that are taken to prevent it would bring a severe economic crisis. So we became defensive at around this time last month, which was not too. It was exactly a good um, at the right time, I think. However, right now it's very difficult to say where we're going because things are changing quite often, and whatever I say today will probably be obsolete within a few days. So I'll try to still focus on the big picture. Um, my thoughts about what we need to follow. Um, I think if whoever is trying to make forecasts right now should not do it, and instead focus on assessing the market on a weekly, I would say weekly basis, not on a daily if you're not a day trader, but on a weekly is good enough because there is a lot of information coming up. And what you need to focus every time you assess the situation is several things. Um, First, the virus crisis itself, how that is developing. So far, it's been growing. There are no signs that it's gonna top anytime soon. Maybe Italy is. It seems like the new cases, at least, are not growing more than before. However, it's too early to tell. But this is probably the most important metric one need to follow right now because there are the two extremes, and just you need to see where we are. The two extremes are some people are saying that um, the whole madness will continue until probably the end of the year with some quarantines and restrictions. Um, some other people are saying let's open up everything even in April. There are studies that are suggesting that the actual um, rate of infection could be way higher than what we think it is, and accordingly, the fatality rate will be way smaller, which may potentially makes the virus not as dangerous as we think it is. And other people are saying that this is not true. So this is yet to be seen, with more data being opening up every day. So this is probably the most important thing one need to follow. If um, the crisis continues for longer, there is a good chance that the bear market in cryptocurrency continues with it. Um, so the second thing is the effect of the um, antivirus action that every economy in the world is taking on the overall economy. Um, some countries tried to avoid taking any action, and now they're reversing course, like the UK. Um, so it seems like pretty much every country in the world will be locked down. Mm, so this directly impacts a lot of industries right now, like tourism, entertainment, transportation, restaurants, and whatnot. But indirectly, it's affecting everyone through the trickle down effect of unemployment, uncertainty. Um, so basically, every business, no matter what it is, will be affected by that. Um, we don't even know yet um, how much damage has been caused this month, and people are forecasting that next quarter, the next 3 months, from April, May, and June, will be probably the worst in, maybe even worst in recorded history. So that could potentially trigger a deleveraging spiral in the economy, um, meaning a lot of defaults in debt, people and companies that have taken too much debt and cannot service it. Um, this may cause a lot of bankruptcies. This may cause potentially financial trouble in the banking system. Um, of course, all of that seems to be fixable by unlimited supply of money by the central banks. So I don't think we have a reason to start withdrawing money from the banks, but we have a reason to worry about the currency in the long term. Um, so this is yet to start. This recession and a downward spiral is to unravel in the next few months, up to maybe even 2 years, depending on many different circumstances. So that's why uh, we need to assess the situation every week. It's hard to predict from now. Mm. So the thing that everybody is watching is the government reaction, um, stimulative reaction towards the economy. It seems like things are changing every day. Yesterday, we got um, a, an even bigger plan for stimulus in the United States, 4 trillion from the Fed and 2 trillion from Congress in fiscal stimulus. They're trying to give, literally, to give money to every family in the United States, and that's probably going to happen around the world in a coordinated fashion. So these are, in a way, good for cryptocurrency, but in the in a bit of a long term, not probably not the short term, because right now, when people are worried about their health and their expenses, uh, uh, crypto is not that interesting overall. Um, as you see, the correlation between crypto and the other classes, asset classes, was very high in the past month. I'm just going to show you a graph in a minute to illustrate that. So my hypothesis is that eventually, once the worst of the crisis of the recession is over, um, crypto and probably Bitcoin and maybe some other coins that are related to money and alternative money systems, and gold will serve as money alternatives, and they will do very well after after the crisis. Something similar to what happened in 2008 to 2011. Um, for those of you that remember that, gold also fell, like everything fell drastically in September, October, November 2008. But gold had a bottom in November, and then it started climbing for a 3-year bull market after that. Um, and stocks continued to fall for another few months after, and the economy slowly recovered. So gold was one of the best investments, not during the biggest financial storm, but right after that. So I have the feeling, but I may change my mind depending on the circumstances, that this will happen again with gold and Bitcoin this time. Um, but we're yet to see. It's just my gut feeling. It's I'm willing to change my mind if something else happens in the meantime. However, within cryptocurrencies, it's hard to say what could go well as well. Um, People will be looking for an alternative of money in a way, because governments have um, little options to stimulate the economy other than print money, and people are not stupid, so people with money will try to find an alternative, and apparently Bitcoin is one of them. However, Bitcoin doesn't scale yet, so it could easily get clogged up with lots of transactions, expensive transactions, and slow ones. And money will potentially transfer to other chains as well. I would personally favor the more stable, bigger cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, than trying to invest in any smaller ones. Um, every yeah, I wouldn't take much risk. I would rather be more conservative within the crypto asset class in this scenario. Um, so I just wanted to share my screen for a little bit and show you a couple graphs, and then we can open the floor for questions. So think about any questions that you may have. Okay, so let me see if that's working. Seems like it's working. So this is the Bitcoin chart. Um, Unfortunately, the uh, um, the trend is down. We have a lower low here. That was the low of uh, November, December. Now we have a lower one. Whether we're going to break the low of December 18, I don't know. I'm not going to be surprised if we don't break below this point within this bear market. But we may as well go down to, if we break it, then we're easily going to 1800. Um, what is in the medium term bad is that we have this crossover here. This is the 30-week moving average. The orange line is crossing the 50-week to the downside. Mm, there is a lot of bearish momentum going on. Also, the 50-week is crossing the 200, the 50 days crossing the 200 days to the downside, which is also negative. Um, and this line here is the halving. So basically, the halving is the only positive thing that's happening right now. But unfortunately, it may turn out to be a drop in the ocean compared to what's going on in the macroeconomy. Another interesting thing that I was thinking is this is the hash ribbons. It shows the um, 30-day moving average of the hash rate and the 60-day moving average of the hash rate. And when the short term is lower than the long term, the 30-day is lower than the 60-day, they call that minor capitulation, when supposedly a lot of miners are forced to close down operation and to sell their coins. So normally when this happens, we have a downturn additionally. So this has already happened again, and it doesn't happen that often. It happens once in a while. This was the last one that we had, capitulation in November till December, and the ones before was near the bottom in 2018. So this is another factor that's pushing the price down somehow. We had a nice rally though since the bottom a couple weeks ago, all the way up to 7,000. But I have a bearish bias right now, to be honest. Looking at the chart, and also the fundamentals and the macro picture. The macro picture is very very bearish. The fundamentals are not they're not great for sure. Um, Maybe the long term is better, but not definitely not the short term. Here is an interesting chart. I hope you can all see it. Um, Here at the very start of the chart is uh, February 19th, and these in the different colors are various asset classes. So we could see for about a month from February 19th until March 23rd how each asset class um, moved. And apparently for that may be a bit of a coincidence, but BTC and S&P 500 had approximately the same drawdown of about 34.5% for this time period. Gold was minus 4%, government bonds about the same. Um, so emerging markets, oil was performing the worst of all assets. But I just wanted to illustrate that crypto is among the worst performers in this downturn, which is something that could be expected of a risky asset class. Um, Also interesting, the fear and greed index. It's been um, right now is a lot of fear, but this is not really indicative of whether the price will go up or down, because this situation could continue for quite a while. It could go even lower. So I'm not really using that in the long term, but it's good to see where we are and to compare the periods that we have right now with, let's say, this period here. That was the bottom of November, December 2018. Um, so what else interesting? This is the total value locked in DeFi projects. It went significantly down since uh, mid-February, and especially down here around the 12th of March. Mm, this is an interesting chart. Unfortunately, yeah, this is the volume going through the Bitcoin network. It's in billion dollars right now. Today, okay, that's yesterday. Yesterday was 2.43 billion. Unfortunately, it's not going up a lot. It needs to go up. That's a good sign. We had only one spike here on the 13th and the 12th around the big drop. If we zoom out, we're going to see this spike here was the last summer when we had a quite fast increase of the prices. Um, this was the late 2017 craziness. We had a lot of volume back then, but overall, right now it's not going up so much, and we needed to go up in order to be more confident that it's being used as a because eventually price follows utility, and this is the utility of Bitcoin in a way. How many dollars per day do we transfer within the network? That's probably the most important metric we have. This same metric of the volume is used in some models to try to predict the price. This is the NVT signal. Um, it's been doing a decent job in the past, but not so good job in the past year maybe, um, of predicting where the price would go. But just for a reference, it also went down significantly with the last drop, which is good, but it could also go down further. It's not decisive according to this metric. I like also the NVRV ratio. Let me see. That's we dropped below one at some point, but now we're above one and even significantly above one. This means that on average, the average investor is in profit right now. When the average investor of Bitcoin is at a minus, it's always a good time to buy. Right now, at a bit of a plus, but we're also far, far away from any of the tops that we've seen in the past. So, okay, here are a few interesting charts as well. Which one? This is a nice one. I always like to look at that. When we dip below the 2-year moving average, it's a good indication to buy. We are about as much as the 2-year right now. We did dip below it with the recent drop, but we're hovering around it right now. Um, so this is basically all the charts I wanted to share. Let's open the floor for questions. Just to sum up my opinion right now, if it's not time to sell, um, let me go back to this. Um, yeah, it's not time to sell crypto. It may be time to accumulate a little bit if you have cash. And I would advise for being more conservative at the moment. I mean, buying bigger projects and not taking excessive risk, and also um, lower your expectations for a potential um, bull market. I mean, it's going to happen, but it may take a few years. So, guys, please help me with the questions if there's anything on
Yep,
YouTube.
sure. There are a few questions for you, Bobby. We can go back to the next one at the end,
Yeah.
I guess. So the first one is coming from Danielle, and he's asking, is it possible that this time it will be an inflationary depression with hyperinflation like in the 1920s? So do you expect a lot of inflation? I guess in the US dollar, yeah.
Well, the 1920s, I I think that Germany had a very big inflation at the time, um, not the US. Well, probably some countries may experience hyperinflation. I don't think that any of the Western countries, meaning Europe and let's say the US, will experience hyperinflation during this crisis. Inflation is so hard to predict. It's impossible to predict in a way. People have been claiming that it's going to come every year, and there's been enormous money printing for the past 12 years, and still there's no inflation, at least not in the standard way they measure inflation. There's been inflation in asset prices, but not in commodities or like the daily uh, the consumer basket, let's say. So it all depends on how much money they print, but also have in mind that because of the crisis, a lot of the money supply is shrinking. It's this higher order money supply, the M2, M3 of the money supply, and they're printing um, way less compared to what is disappearing. Because all the defaults, all the debt defaults, and the decrease of debt and the unleveraging of the system is erasing part of the broader money, and they're printing a little bit of the more narrow money, which is the cash in circulation. So um, I'm not sure if this printing will offset the big deflationary forces of the decreasing debt that we have. So in the very beginning, I don't expect any inflation. maybe afterwards it may start, but it never, like a hyperinflation would never happen so suddenly, like from 2% inflation to 2000 immediately. There will be a period of adaptation before that.
I'll kick in here. So we have a comment actually by Asen Kovachev that TradingView now has symbols for COVID, and you can chart the stats per country and so on. And the next question is from Vasil to Bobby. Do you think that when China gets COVID-19 free, hopefully in a few weeks' time, this will lead to increase of BTC price?
It's an interesting question. Well, I think they're almost free now, but it seems like a second wave may come over there, because they had zero new cases for a little bit, and then foreigners came, and they had to shut down some borders as well. So I think we're going to need a lot of time until the world goes back to normal as it was before. So I don't think there is any correlation between China going back to normal and BTC right now, because Chinese could buy BTC even now. But also they're related to the whole world as well. So if the rest of the world is in lockdown and quite pessimistic, I don't see a reason why Chinese will be way more optimistic for Bitcoin.
All right, so we have another one from Metodi, who actually thanks you, Bobby, for the down to earth analysis and professionalism. So the question is, how do you think a potential rise of the unemployment will impact the crypto market in particular?
Well, as I said before, it seems to be quite correlated to the S&P so far, and the unemployment temporarily will worsen the recession. It will worsen the fears in people, so it's not good for Bitcoin as well. However, in the longer term, the more unemployment we have, the crazier the crisis, the worse the crisis is, the more stimulative packages we're going to see, which in the long term is good for Bitcoin. So it's a bit of a paradox: short term bad, long term good, I would say.
Thanks for that. So another question. There is Dicho, I think, asking whether you have any thoughts on miners are pushing the price down, not the virus speculation.
Yeah, well, we saw this minor capitulation that happened recently. That's for sure something to consider. But the correlation is just too big to ignore. So um, I think the macro picture of the broader financial markets plays a huge role in Bitcoin's price. We should not ignore that. We're not living in a vacuum. So whatever happens in the world is affecting Bitcoin as well. It's not just miners. It's never also one reason. There is just multiple reasons in both directions. However, yeah, I think the crisis with the virus and the financial panic that's going on has been having a bigger impact than anything else right now.
Okay, so there are actually, I don't see more questions coming from the chat audience, but I have a very important one, I guess, for everyone. Like, what do you think? Like, how low should the price of Bitcoin go in order for someone to consider going in, like buying small amounts, let's say, or a bit of Bitcoin? So should it
Well,
go to 4,000, 3,000, 2,000? What will be the amount, in
well,
your
any
opinion?
any number I say will be wrong, and I try not to make the forecast, because if I make a forecast, then it makes me kind of lazy not to follow what's going on. And if I stick to a forecast like that, um, normally it doesn't happen. So I already went in a little bit, right the day after the 12th, so it must have been the 13th after the the big meltdown. So because I thought that all the leverage was broken, and that was a big selling wave. So it must be a good time to buy something. So I already bought something, but I'm not buying now. In my next decision to buy, I cannot even give all the things I'm considering. I don't know all the all the criteria right now, but one of them is if I see um, a big depression in the stock market and in the unemployment rates and overall in the recession that's coming. If there is a lot of bad news that will scare the market, so and there may be another drop, significant drop. This may be a good time to buy, and also let's say towards the end of the recession, or yeah, towards the end, it's also good. It's safer to buy then. Yeah, but there's no specific number. I mean, it could go anywhere between, I mean, between 6,000 and 1,200 maybe, depending on how bad things are. I doubt we're gonna reach to 1,200, but it's possible for a short, especially for a short period of time. I'm actually more like it, a bit more than 50% likelihood I would put for not breaking the previous low of 3,200. But you never know.
I also have a question, by the way, in line with what you added about the Fed. Not only like, as I said, also different governments are implying different measures to keep out of deepening the economic situation all around. So the Fed just recently, a couple of days ago, I think, pledged buying unlimitedly assets to keep the markets flowing. What do you think about that? It's a very, very like novel move by the Fed. Usually what we see, like not usually, let's say like black swan events, you don't have them that often to say usually, but they would print, for example, like 100 years ago, more dollars and so on, like giving more to inflation and so on. So what do you think about this measure?
Well, it's kind of unclear because they're not saying we're going to buy this and this and this much. They're saying we're going to do whatever it takes. So basically, um, they're they're going to prop up the financial system and the and probably the bond market of the bigger companies in a way that nobody goes bankrupt, and they're going to provide infinite amount of money um, to the government. So that doesn't mean they're going to spend infinite amount of money, but they're going to have the official line of credit in a way. So we're yet to see. We have to follow and see how much of this money they're going to actually utilize. Because when they say we have infinite QE, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to print infinite amount of money. It means that they're going to do whatever it takes to prop up the system. But this is a very slippery slope, and it involves a lot of moral hazard, not allowing big corporations to fail as they should in these times. So with every next downturn, the amount of financial aid the Fed needs to give is exponentially higher. And now we already see that this just started, and it's already way higher compared to what we got in 2008. So uh, eventually, it's going to take time, but eventually this is all at the expense of the currency. Um, but this could easily continue for another 20 years. So we cannot say, yeah, hyperinflation is coming tomorrow. And also, if hyperinflation comes tomorrow, what are we going to use? I mean, crypto is obviously not ready for everyday use by people or by corporations. We're just not there yet. I mean, there's nothing that really scales, or nothing is proven to scale. Nothing is user friendly. There is not enough infrastructure. Um, in crypto, we need another 5 years, hopefully, to find a way to scale those projects, and only then to start making them user friendly so that everybody could use them. And maybe in 10 years, when the next black swan hyper recession happens, maybe then we could be ready to start the transition from the old system to the new system. But the new system is not ready yet. But it's a good investment. It doesn't mean that it's not ready, but it's a good investment in a way, because it's just early.
Thanks for your answer. I also think in that line. Yeah, Vlad, back to you.
Okay, so we have a few more questions. So the first one is from Nico Y. So, Bobby, can you elaborate on your view that gold and Bitcoin will follow the 2008 scenario, initially down, then sharp up? When will the separation of DAO and Bitcoin be real, as now it seems they are related?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're quite related. I mean, gold is quite schizophrenic in the past couple of weeks. I mean, going up and down a lot for gold itself. While the market is down for the past month, it's down, what, 35%. But gold is not. It's still up for the year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, let me see what the price is now, because it really changes all the time. Um, but yeah, it seems like we need to go through this uh, madness and mass panic and selling everything you can phase, and then start to accumulate gold, let's say. Um, yeah. Previously, let me share the screen again and open the gold chart. Where's the gold chart? Here you are. Because I'm not saying that it's going to repeat exactly the same. This is a bit of a bias that I have, because I back then I had a position in gold, and I remember really vividly what happened in 2008. So this is roughly what happened. Um, uh, there was a good run up in '07 and '08, and then um, this is the summer of '08. Yeah, basically. And then we had a drop from here to here, which is about 27% down for gold, just for this short period when Lehman failed. That was September, October, November of '08. And then when this ended, the bottom seems to have been in October, during the biggest panic. And when this ended, we have a very nice, very clear and smooth bull run for almost 3 years, until September 2011. So something similar. I'm expecting something similar, but also I'm trying to catch to see what's the catch, because it can't be the same. Mm, I suspect it's going to be similar, but I don't have an answer how exactly it's going to be different this time. But hopefully it's going to be something like this. Um, yeah, that's my elaboration. And potentially Bitcoin could also do something like this, and end up in a bubble after a, a year or 2 year or 3 years after the point of the biggest panic. That's my line of thinking, but I'm very ready to change it anytime if reality proves me wrong.
Thanks for that. By the way, just earlier today in Deadline, I saw news that physical gold is in short supply as investors try to find a safe haven from the coronavirus turmoil. Not to say anything again about next. So again, opening Pax Gold for everyone, supporting it. But yeah, that's just the recent news. So the next question to you, Bobby, is from Stan Stavrev. Do you expect slowing down of the mining technology progress from the big companies of the market related to ASIC production?
Say that again. Slowing down of what?
Slowing down of the mining technology progress.
Well, interesting question. I haven't thought about it. It seems like we reached Moore's law in a way. With the mining chips, they're not getting so much faster as they were in 14 and 15 and 16. And definitely with the price not rising substantially and even going down now, mining wouldn't be very sexy. Mining will be a business of having cheap electricity in a way. Whoever gets the cheapest electricity will be better off. So that's probably not going to bring a lot of innovation in mining, and probably until the next bull market and the next bubble. It seems like miners are winning really big during bubbles as well. So that drives the innovation there.
Yeah, one comment on that. Actually, Velislav mentioned that they're like the primary hardware that is used for Bitcoin mining now is the newest one that is widely available is the S9, which is 14 terahashes. But the newest one, which hasn't been distributed widely and now is starting to get distributed, is the S19, and that is more than 100 terahashes. So that's quite of a jump, I would say, in terms of performance. And I think since we are expecting a reduction of mining difficulty because some of the miners are simply exiting the market since the prices are low, and after the halving, their profits will again be reduced twice or two times. I guess the S9s and the S19s will be the best hardware to mine on, and they could stick around for a long time. I personally don't see a need for R&D, but I mean that's very much up to the hardware producers. I guess they would like to stay ahead of the curve and have designs or at least have some designs that could potentially bring even more or further speed improvements, but I don't see any reason for getting those out in the medium term. But of course, I'm not a hardware producer, so this is just my opinion. And then going to the next question about the moment of going long on BTC. That's coming from Stefan. What triggers, like indicators or events, you would watch to coincide for you to become more bullish and expect a sustainable uptrend?
First thing, maybe if gold bottoms, that will be a good sign. If the recession is towards the end, that's going to be a good sign. If we have upward momentum in the chart in the longer time frame, maybe the weekly time frame, let's say if the 30-week moving average climbs above the 50-week moving average, that's a good sign. Right now it's just crossing on the way down. And these will be signs that probably the bottom is already in, and we're starting to climb for longer. However, it's kind of good to accumulate before that, on portions before that, um, so that you have a better price. But if you're more conservative and you want to accumulate only after this is the bull market has started, yeah, I would recommend that. Mm, bottoming gold, potentially bottoming in S&P, end of recession. Those three. Even though it's hard, I mean, this is kind of tricky because how do you know it's the bottom of gold, or how do you know it's the bottom of S&P? Um, it could go on for a little bit, um, but yeah, it's something you need to keep following. There's nothing within the Bitcoin metrics that could make me say, yeah, this is the bottom right now. It's all about the macro big picture.
There is another question about your thoughts on gold now, but you basically covered that. So the next one is from Boyan Kelchev. What initiatives adopting crypto in everyday life sooner would you recommend?
It needs to be more user friendly, but even if it is, people don't need it right now on a daily basis. Nobody needs it. I mean, it was cool back in the day when you could transfer bitcoins from one phone to another. Right now it's expensive, slow. Few people actually have it on their phones, and nobody needs to do that because people have Revolut and online banking and whatnot. It's not interesting anymore. The real need for crypto will come when we have higher inflation and when people realize that the government are really failing in taking care of our money, and that's going to take a while. So I don't know. I don't think that anybody could do anything to promote adoption. We just need to respond to what people need and what people want. We can't make people need it more than they do. And if they do need it, it's going to be clear that they need it. I think there's been a lot of attempts during in the past few years to try to make it easier to promote crypto and stuff, but the Bitcoin payments in everybody I know who's has an online store and accept crypto, the payments are going down in the past couple of years, in even like in 2014 they were higher than what they are now. So yeah, the need will come when people are questioning the money that we use right now, and we're not there yet.
Okay, one comment on my side regarding this. So yeah, I think Bobby looks at Bitcoin, and actually originally Bitcoin was created to be a payment system, but as we can see in the past years, and as Bobby mentioned, it's actually not being that widely used for payments, and the reason is obvious. It's the price is volatile, and people were generally using Bitcoin as something like a store of value, and they expected it would rise in the future. And actually, what Bobby mentioned, that it's not working as a payment system, I think for me it's not that of a bad thing, because it's proving more to be some kind of an asset which is limited in value, which is easily storable, which is easily transferable, and so forth, but not necessarily a payment method. And I think the primary use case for the next years, and at least until until the market cap of Bitcoin reaches a much more significant amount from where it is now, it will still be considered something like a store of value or digital gold, despite the fact that it really performed very badly in the beginning of the crisis. So its nature, it's the nature of the beast is really not clear at this point. But I would say it's definitely not something that people will be using for payments. So as I said, not I don't see this as a negative thing. It's just proving not to be at this point what it was originally designed to be, and that's completely normal in my opinion. Um,
Let me continue on that a little
yeah.
bit.
Hmm.
I kind of agree with you that it may turn out not to be a bad thing, because I was very angry back in 2017 when the block size got full and we couldn't agree on how to expand it and how to scale. Basically, the community was divided. But now it seems like, in retrospect, this may have been a good thing because governments don't see Bitcoin as a threat. And I've seen a lot of reports by the IMF or the Bank of International Settlements. They understand very well what Bitcoin is, and they are not afraid of it because it doesn't scale. They just say it's not being used for payments. It's not being used for anything other than speculation. So there's nothing to worry about. And they're way more afraid of the stable coins. And we all saw what happened with Libra last year. Uh, so basically, I doubt that Libra could do anything meaningful right now because governments are afraid of Libra. And if they were afraid of Bitcoin, they could have tried to shut it down very early. Fortunately, they're not afraid right now, and they're underestimating it, and it's going to keep evolving under the radar somehow for a number of years until it's ready to be an alternative that we're going to need at some point. We're not there yet, but it may turn out to be a good thing. Uh, yeah, going looking backwards.
Okay, so I have thank you, Bobby, of course, for the commentary. One question that I have. Yeah, so the last one from Peter Petrov. What about proof of stake mining? Isn't it the future of mining?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. It's I am a bit skeptical of for proof of stake because you're you're not staking outside resources. I like the proof of work because you're staking energy that's a real thing in the real world, and you're spending this in order to get tokens. With the proof of stake, you're not you're not spending anything. Basically, if you think about it in another way, uh, nobody's getting anything. It's only those people who are not staking, they're losing because they're just not staking. Everybody who's staking, they're not losing anything of the inflation that's built into the system. So it's kind of a tricky thing, and we don't know. You see, these systems are very new, and in normal times, like 99% of the time, this could work. And once you have a crazy force majeure, like we had on the 12th of March, something may break, like this what broke on MakerDAO. Um, so it may seem like a proof of stake is 99% sure, but in some weird events, it may turn out not to be. Um, so I'm a bit more cautious. Um, yeah, I would prefer proof of work system for the world reserve currency.
Yeah, as a comment on that, I don't think Bitcoin will ever go to proof of stake for the reasons that Bobby mentioned. And I also think that a new differentiation kind of appeared in the proof of stake area. When people are talking about proof of stake, usually it's meant for it to be used as a form of consensus mechanism. But what we see now, for example, in DeFi, is something else. Actually, it's on top of the consensus mechanism of the blockchain. You can have staking, which earns some interest for you, and that is not connected to the confirmation of transactions related to the system. So it's a new model. It's like similar. The idea is completely identical, I would say, to the idea of proof of stake, where you just put in some amount of coins and you're getting more coins in time. But this process is not related to consensus building. And I think, using proof of stake for consensus building still hasn't proven itself. I would believe in proof of stake once I see Ethereum moving to it and actually functioning for a while. Then I would say that proof of stake is something that we should be looking at. But at this point, I'm with Bobby on this one. I wouldn't trust proof of stake that much. And actually, when we look at some of the projects that use proof of stake, for example, EOS, I think knowing what happened there, and basically that very few people are actually trust EOS, and they know that the whole system is more or less controlled by a small amount of node operators which actually know each other. I think this kind of kills the idea of trust. So if there is a different implementation in the future in one of the bigger networks, I would feel more comfortable with proof of stake. But for now, I still don't trust it that much as a form of consensus building mechanism. So let me see if there are. So there is a comment that proof of stake is actually not new. First distributed systems were proof of stake. I guess maybe it's not that new, but since these systems, I'm not sure which these systems are, but since they are not very widely known, I would say that for some reason they didn't attract that much attention. But hopefully this will change. For me, the best or the biggest advantage of proof of stake is that allows more people to be involved in this mining process, let's call it. But depending on what are the economics of the system, since it's the minimum amount that you need to stake might be higher than the majority of people can afford. So this kind of kills that idea. So it depends on the system to system. And I think, there are many phases of proof of stake. There is also DPoS and many different variations of proof of stake. So I cannot talk about all of them since I'm not really familiar with their specifics. But I would be cautious still when it comes to proof of stake. But definitely, I wouldn't like a Bitcoin that is proof of stake at this point. most definitely.
It may be good to have a diversity in the coins, just to make sure that if a proof of work fails, then there is another one that's proof of stake or vice versa.
Yeah, I agree, definitely. And I wouldn't sell my Ether when it moves to proof of stake, but it's not that much of like a large amount of Ether that I have anyway. So when it comes to diversifying, Bobby, what would you say are some other interesting coins apart from the king Bitcoin? What is interesting for you and why?
I always hate that question because they're all so correlated, to be honest. So if we're in an uptrend, I'd rather go with the smaller coins that are less popular and more speculative. If we're in a downtrend, I would stick only to Bitcoin. But apparently, uh, it depends on the context. Like if a lot of people want to use crypto right now, they can't. I mean, Bitcoin is going to get clogged up very easily. So a lot of money will flow into potentially Ethereum, potentially Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV. Um, I still cannot. Um, I cannot understand this dude, Craig Wright. I don't like him for some reason, but it seems like what they're doing at Bitcoin SV makes sense to me. So I'm really struggling because I kind of like what they're doing, but I don't like the leadership. So it's a very controversial project, but I like that they're trying to, they're basically doing unlimited block size and they're fixing the protocol as it is, no more hard forks, which will allow developers to make applications on top of it and not worry about fundamental change. So that may be interesting as a speculative game. It seems like Tezos is quite a interesting speculative coin as well. Um, Also, these other technological, but I don't have an edge into understanding why they're good, or I'm just speculatively looking at them. Let's say the Chainlink one, or um, what else? The Cosmos. I mean, it's they have such a low chance of succeeding, but they have a high chance of going up. So it's good to own them during the uptrends. I kind of like Maker as well, but even with what happened, um, yeah, I'm just looking down. Seems like the basic attention token may be used, but it's a while. This is more of a VC game to me, so I'm not. I don't feel very confident in these bets. Mm,
Can I just a quick? The bat now is a bit up because of Brave just announced collaboration with Binance, so you can like trade directly from the browser without leaving it, add-on or something. So my guess is it's correlated.
It probably is. It seems like everything is correlated. I mean, when the market's down, everything is down. There is a bit less correlation when the market's going up. But then the price doesn't really reflect utility. The price reflects hype, how good you are into convincing the people that you're going to bring something revolutionary. And none of those projects have proven that they're revolutionary and being used in a such a novel way yet. Yeah, maybe Binance Coin could be also a good thing, um, but it's another game. Also, it's not a payment token. It's more like investment in the infrastructure. Mm, so yeah, if the market's going down, there's nothing good to hold other than Bitcoin. If the market's going up, then try to see what's interesting at the moment, what people like, and what's hot in a way, because the fundamentals don't matter in this area yet.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions, but I would like to address like one final question to Bobby, and with that we can end. And that is related to the halving of Bitcoin, which we expect in about 50 days. Do you think this will have, as you mentioned, it's like one of the few positive things to look forward to in the world of crypto and Bitcoin in particular? But what do you think it will happen? Will it have any effect? Will it be a positive or a negative effect? Will it be like just before the halving or after the halving? Do you have any expectations around that?
You mean for the price?
Yes, for the price. Sorry.
Well, well, if we were in normal circumstances, then I was very bullish for the halving, because it's a fundamental event, bringing the 900 bitcoins daily less. So the supply will be less, and consequently, with the same demand or higher demand, the price must go up. Right now, I think in the long term, it's a good sign. But in the short term, there are other factors that are way bigger than the halving. So I don't think it plays a huge role right now. It may play if things get calmer with the crisis. It may play some speculative role for for some time, but no, I don't see it. I mean, the next couple of months will be peak virus in a way. So that's way more important than the halving right now. And also have in mind that Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin SV halvings are coming up very soon as well.
All right. Okay. So I think we can wrap it up. I think it was a very interesting discussion. Bobby was, as usual, very informative. So yeah, thank you very much, Bobby, for this, and
Thank you
thanks
also,
to
guys.
thanks to Anastasia for helping, and yeah, for Albena for sharing some updates. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next month on the last Wednesday of next month, online most probably. And yeah, let's see what's going to happen in the next month, because I think 2020 is a crazy year. So maybe April, I don't know, a meteorite will come, or I don't know what will happen, but it's getting more interesting and more interesting as we go into the year. So let's see what's going to happen in April, and see you guys soon. Bye bye for now. Okay, so I'm not sure if I should end the stream because there is some like delay. So if I end it, I'm not sure if it's going to cut the stream. So I'm just gonna wait for the delay to kind of catch up with the reality, and then I'm going to end it because yeah. Oh, Nexo, we forgot about Nexo though.
Well, yeah. The thing is, I can't really give an answer, unfortunately. Like on this note, so the moment we have we start offering the service to Bulgaria, we'll let everyone know.
Okay, guys. So you can leave. I'm just gonna stay here until the stream ends.
Okay, ciao.
Thank you, Bobby. Благодаря. Чао, чао. До скоро.
Ciao, man.
Ciao, ciao.